Welcome back to Care to CEO, where everyday caregivers become confident care entrepreneurs. Today's episode is deeply personal because we're talking about the truth that doesn't often get said enough. Women of color, especially caregivers, are not behind. They're not the underdogs. In fact, they're actually built for this. Crystal Smith, a mother, a former CNA, a Black woman, built her care business from scratch and became a city councilwoman. Today, she's here to talk about what it really means to start off as an underdog and how that's actually fully to your advantage. Hi, Crystal. I'm so excited you're here today.
Oh my God, thank you. Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Oh my gosh, it's been so great. Things are, really taking off, and I'm excited to, help more people get positioned for this healthcare, home care field.
Absolutely. You always come with such good knowledge. I know I love speaking to you.
Thank
So,
you.
and I know we chat a lot, off camera as well after we wrap up the show.
I know we sure do after party.
I know, we're gonna have to start an after pod series for sure.
Yes, for sure.
But I know one thing that you did say off camera, one of the last times we spoke was around, minority women are actually already equipped to run businesses or run care businesses specifically. So, what did you mean by that when you spoke to that?
Meant when I said that, and I absolutely meant it because I see it every day, is we have been conditioned to survive, and systems not built for us to make a way where there was no way. And that's not just resilience, that's executive thinking. And we know how to manage a household on a tight budget. We know how to communicate with grace and power, even when we're being dismissed. We've been caregivers, advocates, problem solvers. If you've ever had to figure out, how to juggle a 12-hour shift and help your children with homework and still show up for a family member or a neighbor, then you already have the foundation of a CEO. And it's really always been in you.
Absolutely. Those are all skills that are needed in CEOs and business owners and entrepreneurs that if you're not growing up or surrounded by entrepreneurs and new business owners, you would never even assume that the skills that you're born with, the skills that you use on an everyday basis as a woman or as a woman of color specifically, that you're so good at so many things that you might not equate to what a CEO is based on, societal standards of what a CEO looks like or
And you're operating as a CEO on a regular basis, and you don't realize that. It's true for so many people. True for so many people.
absolutely, and I think so much of that is attributed to the ways in which one grows up, and I know you were raised in a very caregiving family. So how do you think that growing up in a multi-generational home really shaped the way that you're able to lead and serve so well today?
Well, I would say that it has helped shape everything for me. I saw my grandmother care for people. She didn't have money, but she had love. I saw my mother stretch a dollar and stretch herself at times for the people around her, for her family, for friends, neighbors. And that is a type of leadership, whether we know it or not. So it's not about titles, it's about presence and it's about service. I would also say that, now that I'm a business owner, I bring those same values into my legacy with respect and dignity, and also with a sense of community. My leadership I think it's very personal because I don't just serve clients, I serve somebody's mother, someone's child, and helping to create someone's legacy. And I think that's really how we need to lead from homes like care, what we were brought up with, and carry that into our future and lead with not only our heart but with strategy. And I want to help people do that.
Absolutely, and it's so incredible that you've been able to take those skills, which some people may referred to as soft skills and really finds a way to build community and monetize and become a mentor and seek out mentorship to find that to grow into it, whereas most people never really make that correlation. So you being able to do that is, I'm sure, helping so many people.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so many women, I'm sure so many women listening, I know myself can be included in this because I definitely can relate to this aspect of having to be the helper or growing up in a
Yes.
home where there always been a helper. There's so many women that are the helper their entire lives, whether it's in home or in hospitals or in schools, whether it's something family related or something within a job. But why do you believe those so-called, soft skills as we refer to them are actually really, really strong business strengths?
I really want every woman out there, young women, girls, to know clearly that your so-called soft skills, quote unquote, are really your superpowers. The ability to de-escalate, for instance, something that some of we mothers or managers or just at your job every day, we do this every day. That's conflict resolution. Being able to read the room, feel the energy, and adjust. That's emotional intelligence. Doing 10 things at once and not dropping the ball, operations management. So, just not placing those titles on yourself that society is sort of downplaying is really important because I need people to know, especially women, that you already have what it takes, and what the world is labeled as soft is actually strategic. The boardroom just gave it a different name, but what you've been doing in your life already, you're the culture. You are the system. And now we need to own that.
Absolutely. Like even what you said, for example, prioritizing multiple things, that's operations. And so many of those things people have to go to school for, study for, get a certificate for, because it's something that they're not born into or experienced in real life. So these quote unquote soft skills that specifically women and women of color are doing on a daily basis and don't even realize that that's a skill that people have to pay to learn and study for and practice, and it's something that so many people are born with and doing on a regular basis. And it's so important that you're shedding light on that because I know you've been obviously through so many different things in life and you've worn so many different hats, but when you were starting out, or even today when you still have to do some of these things, like walking into a funding meeting or a boardroom or, you know, all these different things, did you ever walk into any of those rooms or a licensing office, for example, and feel like you were underestimated just because of your gender or your race or your background? And if you have, which I'm sure you have, like, how did you deal with that?
Absolutely. And this is something that, of course, still happens on a regular basis. And, and I realize that many of us, including myself, we have definitely dealt with imposter syndrome and feelings of that nature. But most certainly, it's not always in our head either. So I can say that I have walked in rooms, and this still occurs sometimes, where they see my skin and not my skills, where they see my gender and not my genius. And it can sting sometimes, but I've decided to let that sharpen me, instead of let it tear me down. I stopped walking in with the need for someone's approval and started walking in with my purpose. I decided to lead with results, data, case studies, and bring an impact to my community in that way. And I made it impossible for people to ignore me. And I want other women of color to understand that being underestimated is their miscalculation, but it's not your limitation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You really came with the quotable quotes today.
Okay, today, okay.
Those
I
all right.
tried. Okay, I told you. I was
Absolutely. I'm gonna have those added into the
Real
description for
quick.
today's
Right.
episode.
We got some posters. We
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's true, it's like you go into these places where you might feel insecure or intimidated or nervous, and everyone can relate to.
absolutely. We all can relate to this. Yes, yes.
And you feel like, you know, maybe I don't fit in here, or you go in with that, and that can definitely attribute to something that stops you or hinders your success. So the fact that you were able to really take that and bank on yourself and make that your power to go forward, it's not only super important for you, it also is like paving the way to help like even eliminate that stigma, or show so many other women of color that you can do this. Like, you are not the underdog, as you said. You are built for this, and the more and more people that do it, it will eliminate that stigma. And you won't be the minority in that situation. You could become the majority of people that are taking over this industry, for example. As you built a care business, why do you believe, for example, some group homes or foster cares or behavioral health housing are some of like the best entry points for first time entrepreneurs, especially of color?
I would say because, well, we've always had to do the work. We've always done this work. Now it's time to own the business. Black and brown women and black and brown men have been caregivers for generations, not just in our families, but in this system, often unpaid, overlooked, overworked. And we've cared for everyone else while our own communities got the short end of the healthcare stick. And that history it's personal at this point. Starting a care agency lets us change that from the inside, and I think we can bring understanding, a cultural connection as well, and real compassion, and we know what it feels like to be dismissed, so we can build care models that uplift and protect, and the beauty is you don't need $1,000,000, you know, or an investor to get started. You need structure, mentorship, you need a heart for service.
Absolutely. And that is something that can really just attribute to the drive, and it's easier said than done, and it's definitely harder to put into motion. But instead of that being a hindrance or something that is a blockage, it should actually be a point to drive you and to make you want to go harder. And especially that you're shedding light on this industry specifically for so many people who want to be entrepreneurs, who have done all these things in their past, or they have this experience at home or in a previous job. I feel like this might give them a whole new idea or a whole new lease on life in a way, because it may have been something that never dawned on them. I mean, I think about this all the time
Right.
too. Now I'm like, maybe
Yeah,
I should become,
right, right.
look into this. So I hope that there's so many people listening that are taking that away from this, for sure.
I certainly hope so.
And, like I said earlier, you've worn and you wear currently so many hats, like mother, CEO, councilwoman, all these things. And going through all of those industries and being so busy, and maybe not ever thinking that you're going to have the success that you actually currently have. Do you remember a specific moment, or your first moment actually, when you really realized, like, wait a minute, I'm actually a CEO now? Was there like a vivid moment that stands out for you?
Oh, definitely. Oh my goodness. I remember, let's say, walking into my first home, for instance, and seeing the beds made and staff schedule and groceries in the fridge and just standing there, just taking it all in and thinking, wow, we did this. But then, I also remember when things were falling apart and when there was no one there to call for help and it was just me and my husband. I remember, doing paperwork at 2 a.m. trying to get caught up or getting those calls in the middle of the night for a new client that needed placement immediately, you're really not in a position to say no because, well, you need the clients right now to help sustain the business. And I remember feeling just beyond exhausted, because that's part of being a CEO is you're the last one to leave and you're the first one there. And I realized, there's no handouts, at this point now. I didn't get any handouts and luck wasn't involved. There was just strategy and grit and God. And I think those are my CEO moments, and I didn't wait for someone to give me that title. I built it, and now I claim it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You claim it in all of its glory. And I feel like, that you're a CEO. And I feel like just from previous conversations with you in previous episodes, you're also always striving to do more somehow. I don't know how you do it, but there's always more and there's a new endeavor, whether it went from being childcare to moving into more like elderly homes and or elderly population, I should say, and things like that. I'm sure there's still moments now where you might still feel like this. And if you do you still feel like, wow, I'm CEO? Is it one of those things that comes in waves where I'm starting this new endeavor?
I don't know. I don't know about now because there's still so much work involved, and so much to do that I don't know that I even always have time to take those moments, or I don't think I think about it anymore because I think I walked into it now, you know what I mean? I'm in the shoes. So now it's just about, now what do we do to really use this and maximize it, you know?
Absolutely. More very CEO minded, thinking, next steps all the time and growth and making sure everything's in line and everyone is cared for. So there's so many different variables and verticals that are
For sure.
involved. And
Mhm.
I know mentorship is something that has been super important to you. And now that you're a mentor yourself, I know you still rely on a lot of mentors to help you help others. And you've been super vocal about that. And you've never been one to gatekeep to gatekeep that at all. So why is it that you think mentorship is so important, especially for minority women looking to get into this business or minority women in general who seek or need some sort of mentorship?
I think just in general, for sure, in general, just we as people need mentorship and guidance, but I say especially in the when it comes to minorities or marginalized people, doors have been closed for us intentionally, and and it's happened for so long, and we've taught ourselves, many of us, that we don't deserve better. We've had so many roadblocks systematically placed in our way, and opening the door now for especially marginalized communities is a necessity to build a table that we can all eat at. And every person I help start an agency is another family that gains some financial freedom and another community that gets care. And not just care, but care that understands because they're part of that community. And gatekeeping, honestly, just keeps our community stuck, and mentorship helps to move that needle. I'm not just here to teach, I'm here to multiply because that's really what we need. And then hopefully we can begin the process of helping each other, of working together to really turn things around.
Absolutely. And building that community and sharing the knowledge can only be helpful to so many people. And that community can thrive and go on to help other populations and other communities. And I think, what you're doing is great. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who would love to have the experience to connect with you or for you to help with mentorship. So we'll make sure to include that information either at the end or in the details of the podcast, just so that people can connect with you and explore that.
Yeah, I'll definitely leave the information at the end.
Absolutely. And as a former city councilwoman, and you're a Black woman CEO, how much do you think that visibility matters in helping others believe that this is not only possible for you, but it's also possible for them too?
Visibility is like everything. When little girls, especially minority little girls, see me, I want them to know that they don't have to shrink to fit in. And you can expand in order to lead. And when people see us winning and in business and in politics and in legacy, it opens doors wider for others. And not I, that I think that's why I do this podcast. That's why I choose to speak boldly because someone has to light this path for others.
Absolutely. And you're doing a great job. I mean, you're killing this podcast as well as everything else you do. I mean, I saw the charts. You're in the top 25 of alternative medicine. So add this to
And that's really
things you do.
crazy.
It's
Alternative
crazy.
medicine? How do
Yeah.
how do I even get in the top 25 for alternative medicine? I'm not complaining. I'm blessed and I'm excited about it.
A lot of people are listening.
Wow, it's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, it's just one of the many things that, you know, like I said, as someone who struggled with imposter syndrome and, with not feeling like you're enough, it just goes to show that, just that there's always someone out there that needs to hear your story or that needs someone's help or needs someone to really just kind of blaze a trail. It just goes to show that because I mean, alternative medicine, you know what I mean? Like that is just amazing to me. I
It
can't say
is.
that enough.
And top 25, I mean, a lot of people are definitely listening and getting something from this. And it's so fascinating, really, if you take a second and think about it, because you actually don't know how many people this is really reaching. It's reaching probably so many more people than
I
you can
don't.
imagine.
And I never expected this ever is the other thing. I would have never I mean, I just thought, okay, I wanna do it. I think I really wanted to start to conquer a fear that I had of podcasting. You know what I mean? I said, well, the best way to conquer something is just do it. And so I'm really excited that where things are going, honestly. And I just feel super blessed.
Absolutely. And I think you said this at one of the first episodes, may have been like the second or third episode. You said something about something along the lines of just start today, start
Yes.
small,
Just start
just
scared.
start.
Yep. Start scared, so I have to practice what I preach. Yeah, so I have to practice what I preach. I can't say that and then be scared of a podcast because I absolutely was. And like I've said to you, as you've really helped, you know, calm my nerves and help me, ease into this. So I'm very grateful of that as well.
Aw, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I love connecting with you, and I mean, you are doing exactly what you said to do, right? You said start, even if you're scared, start small, and
And
you
I
have that
was.
fear, but you were, but you did it, and here you are already.
And now here we are, episode 6, and I definitely started scared. I don't know if you can remember our first episode. I was like, "Oh my god." I mean, I was just I was in panic a little bit, but we got through it.
Start
And
scared,
now
and
I just
it's
kinda look yeah, I look
mhm,
forward to it. So,
absolutely, and it is. It's just another skill. It's another thing that you're starting and trailblazing, and it is, especially looking at yourself on camera or listening to yourself speak, it's scary.
um, it can be very
So
intimidating. It can
especially
be.
when you're putting yourself out there, you're
I know,
being
I know.
a source of knowledge, and you're also being vulnerable to share your story.
And I think that that's the thing that really stops a lot and holds a lot of people back is just that because the longer you wait to do something, like the more anxiety it grows within you. And then you just get
Mm,
scared and then you start making up things in your mind. So that's why I say just start scared. Start without, I mean, sometimes even
start
start without a
scared.
plan.
Yeah, just start. Do anything.
Because then some people think you have to have a plan. Like it has to be like so planned out. And I'm not saying that you should just always operate with without a plan at all, but some people like, they need like the next 5 years planned of the podcast. And it's like, you just got to start because then you got to know what's going to work and what isn't. So,
Mhm. Yeah, and everything is trial and error. If you could think about it all you want, but if you never actually take that leap and start, even if it's, writing something down before you get started, putting a pen to paper, anything like that, that first initial step, you started, and it takes that initial fear out of it to just dive in. And I'm glad, you took the leap to do everything you've done and end up here in this new endeavor where you are helping people. You're a mentor to so many. You're even a mentor to me at this point and to all of our listeners. And that's something that I'm sure everyone's grateful of, and that you've had the courage and the grit and the determination and the intelligence to just start, like you said. And I'm sure there's a lot of women listening right now, but let's say there is a woman listening right now and she's a caregiver, a single mom, maybe even an immigrant, which in today's world is even harder than it may have been previously. But she's tired, she's smart, but she's afraid. What would your message be to her?
so I would say, sis, don't mistake tired for incapable. You're not behind, you're just being built. Uh, Everything you've survived is not baggage. It's blueprint. You were never meant to serve someone else's dream. You have the vision and the strength and the strategy to build your own. Start small, but start. Because your babies are watching, your community is waiting, and your legacy, it already has your name on it. So, again, the message is always going to be just start.
Just start. Not baggage, it's blueprint. You are coming with the one-liners today.
Bangers today, huh? We might have to do
Let
some
me tell
audible
you.
books or ebooks.
No, yeah, this is gonna be we're gonna have to think of another endeavor to turn this into some sort of book or
Oh,
quotes
that's
or
kind of what I like to
something.
do on the side now is like just creating ebooks and things like that. So, and digital products. So maybe that's what it is.
Oh my god, you're doing that too? Wow.
I don't know. It's like meditation a little bit. Like you get into it, it's like it's therapy in a
That's
sense. Yeah.
amazing.
Mhm.
Alright, I'm gonna have to learn a little bit of more more about that.
Yeah. The afterpod.
With the after pod for sure. But as always, thank you for talking to me. Thank you for talking to our listeners. And there'll be some follow-up from this, like we mentioned, to just the crude.
Yeah. So, this, as always, this episode isn't just business. It was about power, identity, and I would say possibility. And if you are looking to maybe become a caregiver or just even get more insight into this field, you can go to caretoceo.com or you can book me at ft.crystalsmith.online. And have a great day. See you next time.
Absolutely. And one message just for everyone before we go about this episode, just to reinforce, this episode was more than just business. It was about power, identity, and possibility. And if you're a woman of color, a caregiver, a quiet leader, this space is made for you. Crystal isn't just building homes. This isn't just work. She's building a movement, she's building a community, and she's trailblazing through all the things that may have not been possible, or you guys may have not thought to be possible prior to this. So, thank you again for everything. If you like this episode, you got something from it, share it. And also, as she mentioned, join the mission at caretoceo.com, and we will see you next week.